heroic history of the Bandeirantes and the efforts of the myth of a civilizing Baroque. The history of the image represents the exterior transfer, or better, an exchange of various mutual transfers. The cult image itself is not present, but only the copy of the Italian original. It represents also this mutual exchange and therefore evokes the question of the image itself, which was one of the crucial questions of the Baroque. The original can be The question of the copy and therefore of representation and their value is also emphasized in various parts of the decoration system. In the Pinacoteca, an art gallery which has a certain colonial tradition in churches. Of the church we can find several paintings, copy of especially 19th century images of the missionary work of the Jesuits and other orders in the 16th century. So these are copies which you can find in the National Museum in Sao Paulo. So and here you can find, it's a lateral part of the church where you have a Pinacoteca with these paintings, and here the second one. The three paintings, for example, which you can see here a copy of Maireli's first Mass celebrated in Brazil refers also to the importance of nature within the civilizing, in quotation, and missionary project in colonial Brazil. The same topic, the importance of, and you cannot find it only as a painting, you can find also it as a tile within the church. The same topic, the importance of nature, is displayed in another medium, the tiles. These different representations demonstrate the abundant aspects of transfer and translation into different media as a neo-Baroque concept. I would like to come back to the historiographical part of my paper. Within this context, Hannah Levy's articles on Brazilian art constitute an important historiographical and analytical contribution. She immigrated from Europe to Brazil and wrote about colonial Brazilian art and the theory of the Baroque in the 40s and 50s, the period of the planning and execution of Nossa Senhora do Brasil.
What is her name exactly?
Hannah Levy.
How would you spell that?
Hannah Levy. But she changed her name. Therefore, it's very complicated to find her. In Brazil, she changes her name. She writes Hannah with an H at the end. And when she goes to the States at the end of the 40s, she has to marry her boyfriend, so she calls then Hannah Bernhardt. I can talk later in the discussion about her biography, which is already a very interesting idea of the transfer, of culture, of historiography about the Baroque. In her text, she does not only manifest the first post-colonial and neo-Baroque understanding of Brazilian art, she also developed an approach that combines formal and iconographical analysis beyond national stereotypes. Her articles from the 40s can be considered the earliest attempts to integrate Brazilian colonial art, the Baroque, into a larger picture, a first sketch for the concept of world art history based upon her experience of immigration. It is interesting to know that she would not have described herself or her methodological approaches in relation to experience as either an ethnographic or national project. Her criticism must be understood implicitly in reference to the main trends of Brazilian art history and explicitly to those of European art history. Levy praised Wölfflin for having turned art history into a scientific field and for his case studies. Yet her main criticism focused on his idealistic concept of history and on his idea of history as independent from autonomous artistic developments. Levy rejected not only the idea that a uniform and homogeneous style existed within a certain epoch, but suggests the influence of aspects such as nation and race in a very different manner. In Levy's understanding, art history should be understood as a dialectical process in which different cultural spheres followed the principle of their own dynamics and were connected with social history. She applied her approaches in her own research and the formation of future scholars at the Institute of Patrimony in Rio de Janeiro. And which is very interesting because it's the beginning of a national concept in this institute, and she's the one who is exactly arguing against it. So there are a lot of contradictory. According to Levy, a work of art responsible for a formation of a school in colonial Baroque in colonial Baroque has a historic value without necessarily being of great artistic value. The distinction of different values is neither new nor progressive, but Levy's text made the relativism of evaluation perceivable. None of these values, I quote, constitute absolute values in history. They are completely relative, unquote. In this context, Levy avoided nationalistic terms. This contrasts strongly with the national project or search for Brazilianity, Brasilidade, by modernist authors, which I quoted before. With this position, Levy questioned the primacy of European art history. Her perspective directs her interest to the artistic relationship between center and periphery, a question which is equally fundamental for George Kugler. Levy, in fact, demonstrated in her articles on colonial painting from Minas and Rio that it is possible to break the hierarchy of European and non-European without losing focus on a particular artwork and its individual context. Hence, Levy succeeded in including her analysis consideration of the importance of materiality for structural analysis. This kind of contextualization signifies an early attempt at systematic discourse analysis of images that operate beyond national and ethnic patterns. It is noticeable that Levy put the Brazilian examples into a framework that resembles that of Wolflin, while including in her approach a sociological dimension. Furthermore, it is possible to identify in her analysis patterns for the first time in art history a break with the dichotomous view of productive and receptive cultures and to prepare a neo-Baroque approach. Here I just would like to remind the aforementioned architecture of the church as a superimposition of colonial Baroque architecture with Roman references, the churches in Minas Gerais and Bernese colonies. Her methodologic I think I skipped this. Especially in the case of Wolflin, Levy prizes his structural and formal analysis of works of art while revealing the implicit hierarchies and prejudgments within his theories. As a result, her approach also can be considered as a post-colonial attempt. The church main decoration consists of an original series of tiles, azulejos, that combines important events from the history of Catholicism as well as Brazilian and church history. Furthermore, the series depicts the main sanctuaries in Brazil and Latin America, including Guadalupe and also in Jerusalem and Rome. So here we can see, this is the sanctuary of Nossa Senhora de Penha in Sao Paulo. You have really the steps. You go from the city, Sao Paulo. Here you have, this is the Church Nossa Senhora de Conceição in Salvador de Bahia. And then you go to the national symbol. This is Nossa Senhora de Aparecida, which is the saint, with this, the national saint of Brazil. And to the saint of Latin America, which is here, the Guadalupe. And then you have Rome, and then you have Jerusalem. However, there are also new profane sanctuaries included, like the building of the United Nations in New York, which you can here see on the left side.
It's a pity Brasilia didn't exist yet. It would have been there.
So, and now we'll continue. The paintings of the ceiling were made during the last 15 years, and they consist mainly in copies of Michelangelo's frescoes in the Sistine Chapel, combined with other European artists that belong to the Western art historical canon, like Raphael, Zurbarán, or Caravaggio.